If you want to learn how to switch between two Skype calls on an ATEM Studio HD, then watch this video. Hi, Gary Cruz with AmazeStudios.com here, and today I'll be covering how to switch between two Skype calls or Zoom calls with two PCs without having them hear an echo of their voice. So let's switch over to my presentation so I can illustrate this a little bit further. All right, so the problem is that you want to have a Skype call with two parties. Let's say we've got Marcus on HDMI 2 and Nancy is on HDMI 3, and they need to hear each other, but if you just route the audio, they're going to hear it echo because in this example, HDMI 2 is one PC and then HDMI 3 is another PC. And we're using two computers. And why two computers? Because you want to get the highest resolution from each caller. So for example, if I can't show my mouse here. So for example, let's say this is Marcus and this is Nancy. And if you want to switch between those two, each source has to be full screen, right? Let's go over the setup. In this setup, we have my ATEM Studio HD and my Behringer XR12 mixer on the right. And then I've got two computers set up. The first computer is a Mac. And let's say your caller Marcus here is calling on Skype. And this Mac is connected to the ATEM Studio HD via HDMI. Now, to do a mix minus, you also need to get the audio from this Mac into the XR12. And so I've got that connected over here into input, input 4. The only reason why I'm using input 4 is because it's hard to reach. And so I can only reach 4, 5, and 6. And I was just lazy. But you can use the appropriate inputs based off what you need. So I'm using a 3.5 auxiliary cable to XLR going into a direct interface. Now we need to get the -1 back into the Mac. So this case will take aux going into the XLR input of this Mix Pre 3. And then I have the USB-C port connected into the Mac. Now the reason why I'm using this Mix Pre 3 is because the latest Macs don't have any mic inputs. Now you don't have to use a Mix Pre 3. You can use these dongles that have a headphone and auxiliary input or a microphone input, but this is what I had handy. Now next up, we have Nancy, who's calling in on my second computer, which is a PC. Now you'll notice on the top of each of these computers that the Mac needs loopback and the PC needs voice meter. I'll get into that in another slide. Now, the PC is connected to the ATEM Studio here in the blue line via HDMI 2. And then similarly, I need to get the audio into the mixer as well. In this case, my PC does not have an input. It's actually a mini PC. The workaround that I had is I had a Zoom H6 handy. And I've got a USB cable connected to the Zoom. And when you plug it into the Zoom, it asks you if you want to use it as a USB audio interface. There's a line out on the back of the Zoom, which I used here as a 3.5mm aux to TRS into input 6 on the XR12 mixer. And then to get the mix minus, I took the auxiliary or bus 2 going back into the Zoom, and that feeds back into the USB. Now, me as the interviewer, I've got my camera here as Gary, and that just comes in as input 3. I think in this case, I actually have it going in as DI, but use whatever connection works for you. But I want to use my microphone, my snazzy SM7B. So I've got my microphone here, and that microphone is plugged directly into the mixer into input 5. All right, now let's go into some of the details here. I think I'll need to exit out this. Oh, as you can see in main left and right, as purple coming out of the XR12 mixer going into the input of the XLR of the ATEM Studio as a full mix, because that's what is going to be broadcasted. Now, this on the Mac, in order to get the audio both coming out from the HDMI and also coming out on the auxiliary cable, I needed to use loopback. You can see that I put iTunes in here only because I needed to test the audio at the time. But I have Skype and Zoom, and in this example, I'm using Skype. And you can see here that the input is the Mix 3. So back here, we've got the Mix Pre 3, and that's the input that's going in there. That's going to be the Mix Minus, meaning that this caller that is connected to this computer, which is Marcus, he's not going to hear his own voice, but he's going to hear the other person as well. And the way this works is that the Skype audio right here, I've got a Zoom and Skype virtual interface here, and I can select that. And then that goes into my output channels, and I have it going over my HDMI interface, and also to what they call my internal speakers. That's my TRS cable that goes out into the, where is that? Right here in the green, into input 4. Okay. Next up is the PC. So remember, on the PC, kind of similar setup, but they don't have loopback for the PC. So there's a free app called Voice Meter. Oh, let me state that loopback isn't free. You have to purchase that. And the only reason why I purchased it, because it really has these nifty connection diagrams that helps you troubleshoot exactly where input sources are going for your output. Voice Meter, it's a little more difficult because it's not visually oriented, but you can see that since I connected my Zoom H6, I've used that as my microphone, and then my speakers is this virtual output, which goes into this virtual input, and then I have both of them going out to the H6 and the line out. And you can see that here. That's where Voice Meter is set up here, and then that audio is going out through there. I'll show you an example with my camera. Now, the setup on the XR12. Now, I've seen examples on YouTube where people use physical mixers, so I had to draw this out so you can see this, because I can't really show it physically using a camera, because the XR12 is a digital mixer. So right here, we've got the main left and right selected, and it's in purple because that's indicating that this is the full mix that is going into the ATEM Studio HD. This is what's going to be broadcasted or recorded onto ATEM. So you want all these to be at the same level, or you're going to mix it accordingly. So Skype user 1, you'll hear that person, you'll hear me on this red microphone, and then Nancy here in blue. Again, that's all represented here in the previous slides. So we've got the main left and right, which is a full mix going from the XLR input of the ATEM Studio HD from the XR12 into the ATEM. And I showed the connections here. The green is Skype 1, red is the microphone that I have, and then blue is Skype 2. Switching over to, this is now the aux 1 bus 1. This is the mix minus. So the Skype caller 1 here, you can see that I've turned it down because I don't want them to hear their own voice, hence mix minus. And so that, again, you can see that illustrated here in green. That's where they're connected. And then since I've got this going onto bus 1, you can see that's in green here. When you select that, it'll show your mix of what's going to be coming out of bus 1. And the mix is they're going to hear me and the other caller, but not themselves. So the green is going to go back over to Marcus here, and the blue goes over to Nancy. And so what's the blue? That's going to be bus 2. So if we switch this over to bus 2, I've got bus 2 selected, and when I select that, this will go down because Nancy is going to, or Skype caller 2 is going to have the mix minus, and then she's going to hear the voice of the Skype caller 1 and myself in the red microphone here. Again, this is all represented on the inputs here. Just a simplified view of this mess. All right. Now, let's talk about how this is all set up live. Let me exit out of this. All right, so here is the interface for the X-Air, and everything is pulled down to 0 because I want to show you how I set this up. I have to have my SM7B on, so this is how I'm recording to the ATEM right now. All right, so then let's switch over to, this is going to be PC1, where Marcus, in this example, was calling in. So if we switch over to Skype, all right, here I've got this mix pre. Again, that's going to be coming out from here as my input. And then my speaker is this Zoom audio device. So if we go over here, we've got my Zoom and Skype. It just starts with Zoom. So this is my Zoom and Skype audio device. All right, so if I go over here and test audio, the audio is coming out. It's going over here. It's going into the ATEM Studio and also as my speakers. All right, so you can kind of see it right here. This is the audio that's coming in. So let me pull this up so you can hear it. Let's set that. So this is a pretty confusing interface. If you haven't seen this before, you'll get used to it if you have an XR series or an X series Behringer. So if I select this is the channel. Let's take a look at this mixer here. Let me pause the audio here so I can explain this. All right. This is why I illustrated it first, because those people who understand mixing will understand that setup. And then if you're trying to set up your X-Air, hopefully you'll find value in this detailed part piece here. When you select this, this is a channel, and this is channel 4. This is the input that's coming from my Mac. Now, if we take a look at the mixer, this just shows the whole mixer here. And then if we click on channel, this is where we can kind of set up the gain. So the audio was coming in a little low, so we want to go ahead and adjust that accordingly. So let's go ahead and do that now. Go back over to Skype, do the test audio, and bring this up. Okay, so this should be about the same level as my microphone that you hear me now. All right, let's pause that ringtone. So let's go ahead and name this. Let's not slow it. We'll name this Skype. Skype 1, and I'll just color that yellow. So we've got Skype 1. And then let's switch over to the PC. So let's switch over to the PC. And I got that coming in as HDMI 3. All right, so on the PC, we'll do the same thing. But this one has voice meter. So let's test audio here. And right now we don't hear anything. But if we switch back over to HDMI 2, you can see that this is connected to input 6. So on voice meter, I have the Zoom H6 as my input, and then I have a virtual input, which is right here. The voice meter, right? And then my microphone is going to be the Zoom H6. On the output, I've selected this, and the other output is the HDMI. All right, let's go ahead and check the settings here. And we'll do the same thing. We'll bring this up so you can start hearing it. So let's select this channel. Actually, let's mix this together here. Okay, let's stop that audio. All right, let's switch back over to the mixer and continue on. Now that I have my level set on the mixer itself, let's just take a look at what it looks like on the ATEM software. So if we go over here on the audio, you can see that my XLR, it's on. If I turn it off, it's going to turn off the audio here. So that full mix that I showed you earlier. Where's my keynote? That full mix is going to be coming from the output into here. And that's what you see here. This is the audio coming, the full mix of both speakers, my microphone coming into this ATEM Studio. All right, now we've got to set up the mix minus. Before that, I do that, let's go ahead and name this. Skype 2. All right, now let's go back to this channel and let's click on bus 1. And bus 1 is what's going to be coming out of aux 1. So we want this caller to hear myself and caller 2, which is right here, right? And if we take a look at the sends, let's see, is it the sends here? Bus outputs. Okay, you can see that the bus output is going up. Now that should be going back into channel 1. All right, to visualize that, let me switch over to my other camera here. All right, let's do this. So you can see that audio is coming in through this mix pre. That mix pre is connected to my Mac. And if we go ahead and switch over this and test the audio coming from the PC. Let me turn this down a bit. And if I switch over to my Mac, you can see that the audio is coming in. That means caller 1, which is Marcus, can hear Nancy, which is caller 2, coming in from the PC. Now let's do the opposite so that Nancy can hear Marcus. Go over here. I'll stop this on the PC. All right, so that's the mix minus. And Marcus shouldn't hear himself because I've got that turned down. All right, now if we check out, so if we go to bus 1, bus 1 is for Marcus. If we go to bus 2, we want Nancy to be able to hear myself and Marcus. And if we check the PC, hello. The PC is getting my voice. You can see that going up and down. And if we switch over to HDMI 2 here and test the audio, and you can see that you can see that Nancy can hear Marcus, which is coming on from this Mac right over here. So this is the Mac, and this is the PC. But Nancy won't hear herself, because if we switch back over here, taking a look at Skype 2, what do we see? Bus 2, she'll hear caller 1, which is Marcus, that's on Skype 1, myself, this microphone that you're hearing now, minus her voice. And if we click on the main, this is what is going. The main is the full mix of all 3 callers. So if I, let's go ahead and turn on the audio. And then we'll switch it over to the PC and do the same thing. And so now we've got all 3. All 3 is going to the output into the ATEM. Here's the audio. So again, taking a look at this, we've got main left and right, Skype 1, my microphone here, and Skype 2. Skype 1, my microphone, and Skype 2 are all on at the same time, and that's being output to, that's the main output here. That's coming in as XLR. Now you can also just mix in the audio directly from the HDMI sources. That's the Mac. That's the PC. This is the PC. And then that's the built-in audio coming from the Sony A6400 with a Rode microphone. You can hear that there's the ATEM Studio fan. It's pretty loud, and also my air filter, and that's why I'm using the Shure SM7B here. Alright, so let's switch back over. This is just my Shure SM7B. Let's turn off the audio coming from the Skype. Alright, that concludes the tutorial on how to set up 2 separate Skype calls coming on 2 different PCs into your ATEM Studio with a mix minus, meaning that each of the callers won't hear themselves, resulting in an echo. If you find that this tutorial was helpful for you, hit that subscribe button on the way out, and thanks for watching.